So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Thor. No, I'm just kidding. This is Later Levinson and Stephen Watt, who are going to talk about darkmail.
A 7-foot-tall genius wrote 13 lines of code that helped steal 94 million credit cards. The US government made him pay $250,000 for it. This isn't just another hacking story. It's about an extraordinary talent, extreme loyalty, and the thin line between coding brilliance and criminal conspiracy. In this video, we'll uncover how Stephen Watt, a Morgan Stanley programmer by day and legendary hacker by night, created the software tool that powered the largest credit card theft in history, and how his friendship with a master criminal cost him everything. The Coding Prodigy. Stephen Huntley Watt was born in 1984, towering over his peers from an early age.
Alright, we're going to do a quick little visual demonstration here. Hopefully everybody's going to be able to follow this as much as possible.
By the time he was a teenager, he stood nearly 7 feet tall, a physical presence matched only by his intellectual capabilities. While most kids were playing video games, Watt was reverse engineering them, fascinated by how they worked at the code level. Watt's brilliance was evident early. He graduated from college at just 19 years old, a feat that immediately caught the attention of Wall Street recruiters. Morgan Stanley, one of the world's largest investment banks, quickly hired him as a software engineer. By day, he wrote sophisticated financial algorithms for millionaire clients. Few of his colleagues knew about his other life. In hacker circles, Watt was known by several aliases, first as Jim Jones, and later as the Unix terrorist. He wasn't just any hacker, he was legendary. His coding skills earned him a reputation as someone who could create elegant solutions to complex problems in hours rather than days. What separated Watt from average programmers wasn't just skill, it was his creative approach to solving seemingly impossible challenges. Watt specialized in low-level system programming, writing code that interacted directly with operating system kernels and network protocols. He mastered the intricacies of TCP/IP packet structures and memory management techniques most programmers never touch. His expertise in Unix systems was particularly impressive. He could manipulate network traffic, bypass security measures, and create nearly undetectable monitoring tools. These weren't just academic exercises, they were sophisticated capabilities that few programmers ever develop. Unlike many in the cybersecurity world that disclosed vulnerabilities to companies, Watt aligned himself with the black hat community, hackers who opposed the publication of security flaws. Under a project called Mayhem, his group hacked into the accounts of prominent security researchers and publicly exposed their private communications. At the 2002 DEF CON Hacker Conference, Watt even took the stage to share some of the embarrassing emails they'd obtained. This confrontational approach would foreshadow his later troubles. Meeting Albert Gonzalez. In the late 1990s, Watt met a fellow hacker named Albert Gonzalez in online forums. The two became close friends despite their different personalities. Where Watt was intellectually driven, Gonzalez was ambitious and materialistic. Their friendship would continue for years, with Watt viewing Gonzalez as his best friend, a loyalty that would ultimately prove catastrophic. While Watt built a legitimate career at Morgan Stanley, Gonzalez's path took darker turns. After being arrested for ATM fraud in 2003, Gonzalez became an informant for the Secret Service, helping them take down a carding forum called Shadow Crew. But behind his handlers' backs, Gonzalez was planning something much bigger, systematically targeting major retail chains to steal credit card data on an unprecedented scale. By 2005, Gonzalez had assembled a team targeting America's biggest retailers, TJX companies, owner TJ Maxx, Office Max, DSW, Barnes & Noble, Sports Authority, and Boston Market. His initial methods were crude, sitting in parking lots with laptops and antennas, intercepting wireless network traffic. But to scale up his operation, he needed something more sophisticated, something that could extract millions of credit card numbers without detection. In 2006, Gonzalez contacted Watt with a request. He needed a specialized program, a packet sniffer, that could intercept and filter credit card data on a compromised network. Though Gonzalez never explicitly stated his criminal intentions, the purpose was clear enough. Watt faced a critical choice: help his friend or walk away. A packet sniffer is a software that captures data flowing across a network. Most network traffic isn't encrypted end-to-end, so once inside a system, these tools can see sensitive information as it moves between computers. What made Watt's Sniffer, codenamed blabla, exceptional was its precision and stealth. Unlike commercial monitoring tools that captured everything indiscriminately, blabla specifically targeted credit card data patterns, filtering out irrelevant information and encrypting what it captured. It could run silently for months without affecting network performance or triggering security alerts. Most impressively, Watt wrote the sophisticated tool in just 10 hours, a task that would take an average programmer weeks to complete. Creating the blabla sniffer. According to court documents, Watt created the blabla sniffer in a single coding session of about 10 hours, an astonishingly short time for such sophisticated software. Working from his New York apartment after his Morgan Stanley job, he crafted the tool that would later be described by cybersecurity experts as elegant in its simplicity, yet devastating in its effectiveness. What made blabla particularly dangerous was its focus. Rather than capturing all network traffic, which would create enormous log files and risk detection, Watt designed it to recognize and record only payment card data patterns. This meant the program could run continuously, collecting only valuable financial information while remaining nearly invisible to security monitoring systems. The blabla sniffer used a technique called regular expression pattern matching to identify credit card numbers in network traffic. It could distinguish between different card types, for example Visa, MasterCard, or American Express, based on their unique numbering patterns. When card data was identified, the program encrypted it and packaged it for exfiltration in small time bursts to avoid triggering network traffic alerts. The sniffer was designed to restart automatically after system reboots and had multiple evasion techniques to avoid detection by antivirus software. Watt later claimed he never asked what Gonzalez planned to do with the sniffer. This deliberate ignorance, what legal experts call willful blindness, would later become a critical point in his criminal case. As he handed over the completed code, Watt chose not to inquire about its intended use, despite the tool's obvious potential for capturing sensitive financial data. After completing blabla, Watt transferred the code to Gonzalez, who stored it on servers in Latvia, far from the US jurisdiction. Gonzalez's team then deployed the sniffer across the compromised networks of major retailers. Once installed, Watt's creation began silently harvesting credit card numbers by the millions, creating one of the largest data breaches in history. The retail breaches. Gonzalez's biggest target was TJX Companies, parent of TJ Maxx and Marshalls. In 2006, he identified vulnerabilities in the company's wireless networks. Using Watt's blabla sniffer, they penetrated TJX's corporate systems and began extracting credit card data. What made this attack particularly devastating was its duration. The breach continued undetected for 18 months, compromising 45.6 million customer records. The TJX breach exploited a perfect storm of security failures. The company used an outdated WEP encryption for its wireless networks, a protocol cryptographers had already proven vulnerable. Once inside the network, Gonzalez's team used SQL injection attacks to penetrate the central database and install Watt's sniffer. The most shocking vulnerability? TJX stored complete magnetic stripe data from credit cards, violating payment card industry standards. This meant that once stolen, the data could be used to create perfect counterfeit cards. After TJX, Gonzalez's ambitions grew. His team targeted Dave & Buster's restaurant chain, Office Max, Boston Market, Barnes & Noble, and Sports Authority. In each case, the attack followed a similar pattern: identify wireless network vulnerabilities, penetrate the corporate database, deploy Watt's sniffer, and extract card data. By 2008, they had stolen information from over 94 million payment cards across multiple companies. The stolen card data was transferred to servers in Latvia, Ukraine, and Russia, where it entered the criminal supply chain. Gonzalez sold bulk card data to Eastern European cybercriminals who created counterfeit cards and conducted fraudulent transactions worldwide. The operation generated tens of millions in illicit profits, money that Gonzalez spent lavishly. at one point throwing himself a $75,000 birthday party and complaining about having to count $340,000 by hand when his money counting machine broke. Throughout this period, Watt maintained his legitimate job at Morgan Stanley, living modestly in New York. Unlike Gonzalez, who was buying Rolexes and BMW sports cars, Watt never received significant payment for his blabla sniffer. This stark contrast would later be central to his legal defense, that he was motivated by technical challenge and friendship, not financial gain. As prosecutors would later argue, however, this didn't make him any less culpable for the massive fraud his code enabled. The investigation unfolds. In late 2006, TJX detected unusual activity on its networks, but it wasn't until January 2007 that the company publicly disclosed a data breach. The announcement sent shockwaves through the retail and banking industries, triggering one of the largest cybercrime investigations in FBI and Secret Service history. Investigators initially had no suspects, only digital breadcrumbs scattered across continents. The breakthrough came from Gonzalez's operational errors. His team repeatedly accessed the Dave & Buster's network from the same restaurant location in Islandia, New York. This pattern helped investigators narrow their focus. Additionally, communications between Gonzalez and his Eastern European partners were intercepted, gradually revealing the conspiracy's structure. Digital forensics played a crucial role in the investigation. Investigators recovered packet capture logs showing the distinctive signature of Watt's blabla sniffer. The program's encryption method for stolen data had unique characteristics that allowed investigators to link different breaches to the same tool. Server logs from Latvia contained timestamps and IP addresses that helped establish a timeline of the attacks and identify potential suspects. In May 2008, federal agents arrested Gonzalez in Miami, where they discovered $1.1 million in cash buried in his parents' backyard. As Gonzalez's co-conspirators were identified and arrested, investigators found communications linking him to Watt. Analysis of the blabla sniffer's code revealed sophisticated programming techniques that pointed to an exceptionally skilled developer. Federal agents raided Watt's apartment, confiscating his computer and digital storage devices. Forensic analysis revealed copies of the blabla code matching what was found on compromised retail networks. For Watt, the comfortable life he'd built at Morgan Stanley instantly evaporated. He was fired, his reputation in the financial industry destroyed, and he now faced serious federal charges for his role in the largest data breach in US history. Prosecution and Defense. In August 2008, federal prosecutors in Boston charged Watt with creating and providing the sniffer tool used in the TJX breach. The indictment highlighted his technical expertise and his relationship with Gonzalez. While other conspirators faced dozens of charges, Watt was charged with a single count of conspiracy, reflecting his limited role as the tool's creator rather than an active participant in the breaches. Prosecutors portrayed Watt as a willing accomplice who used his exceptional programming skills to enable massive fraud. They emphasized that he continued updating the blabla sniffer even after the TJX breach became public knowledge. The lead prosecutor, Stephen Heyman, who would later become controversial for his aggressive prosecution of Aaron Swartz, argued that Watt's technical expertise made him especially culpable as he fully understood the potential consequences of his code. Watt's defense centered on his limited involvement. His attorney argued that Watt never directly participated in any network breach, never received stolen card data, and never profited from the fraud. They emphasized that writing code itself wasn't illegal, only the use of that code for criminal purposes. Watt maintained he created the tool as a technical challenge, without specific knowledge of how it would be deployed. The case raised important questions about programmer liability. Code by nature is morally neutral. The same network monitoring tools used by criminals are also used by legitimate security professionals. Yet, dual-use technology creates legal gray areas. The prosecution argued that the blabla sniffer's specific design for capturing credit card data, combined with Watt's knowledge of Gonzalez's history, constituted criminal intent. This established a concerning precedent. Programmers could be held liable for how others used their code if they had reason to know of potential illegal applications. Plea and Sentencing. Facing potentially years in prison and crushing legal costs, Watt reluctantly accepted a plea deal in December 2008. He pled guilty to a single count of conspiracy to commit computer fraud, acknowledging his role in creating the software used in the data breaches. The decision spared him a lengthy trial, but meant accepting a permanent criminal record. In December 2009, Watt appeared for sentencing in Boston federal court. Prosecutors sought a 30-month prison term and $8.2 million in restitution, the amount they claimed TJX spent addressing the breach. Watt's attorney argued for probation, emphasizing his minimal profit from the scheme, his cooperation with authorities, and the disproportionate financial penalty. U.S. District Judge Nancy Gertner ultimately sentenced Watt to 2 years in federal prison, significantly less than his co-conspirators, but still a substantial penalty. She also imposed 3 years of supervised release and ordered him to pay $250,000 in restitution, acknowledging the unreasonableness of the government's multi-million-dollar demand. In her ruling, Gertner noted the tension between Watt's limited role and the massive harm caused by his code. Years later, Watt would express regret, not for his actions, but for taking the plea deal. At a 2013 security conference, he stated he should have fought the charges, believing prosecutors couldn't prove he knew exactly how his code would be used. This perspective revealed his continued ambivalence about his responsibility in the scheme. While acknowledging creating the Sniffer, he rejected the notion that he should be legally culpable for Gonzalez's crimes. The aftermath. While Watt received 2 years, Albert Gonzalez faced much harsher consequences. In March 2010, he was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison, one of the longest sentences ever imposed for hacking crimes. The court ordered him to forfeit over $2.7 million in cash, his Miami condo, a BMW, and expensive watches and jewelry. From masterminding the largest credit card theft in history, Gonzalez now spends his days in federal prison, scheduled for release in 2025. The TJX breach fundamentally changed retail cybersecurity. The company spent over $200 million addressing the breach and compensating affected customers. The case accelerated the adoption of the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, PCI DSS, which requires encrypting payment data and regular security audits. Today, many security measures we take for granted, like chip-based cards and end-to-end encryption, were implemented partly in response to these breaches. The technical legacy of the TJX breach transformed payment security architecture. Retailers moved away from storing complete card data, implementing tokenization systems that replace sensitive information with non-sensitive equivalents. Point-to-point encryption now protects data from the moment a card is swiped until it reaches payment processors. Modern intrusion detection systems specifically look for patterns similar to the blabla sniffer's behavior, highlighting how security evolves in direct response to successful attacks. Life after prison. Watt was released from federal prison in 2011, entering a world where his remarkable technical skills were now tainted by a criminal record. Barred from many traditional programming jobs due to his conviction, he had to reinvent himself in an industry that simultaneously feared and respected his abilities. Despite his conviction, Watt eventually returned to the security community. In 2014, he worked with privacy advocate Ladar Levison to develop the Dark Internet Mail Environment, DIME, an encrypted email protocol. By 2017, he contributed to Subgraph OS, a security-focused operating system. These projects suggested a shift towards using his skills for privacy protection rather than exploitation. Watt's story raises difficult questions about the responsibilities of technical talent. When does creating a tool become complicity in how it's used? Should programmers consider the potential misuse of their code? And how do we balance technical curiosity against ethical boundaries? What do you think? Was Stephen Watt a criminal who deserved punishment, or a brilliant programmer punished for a friend's crimes? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories where technology, crime, and ethics intersect.